Eurosport Live.
Well, as you join us, the riders coming down the other side of the finish line. The gap is being cut back now, and it's a Postobon team of all sorts that are doing the damage right now. On the front then, driving hard to pull back that useful little group then, is Arturas Kasputis, the Lithuanian rider, who was also a junior champion of the world as a pursuiter, and he's pursued after that group, and he's now pulled them back. So the Postobon team, who are bottom of the list when it comes to prize money in the Tour de France this year, have now been showing at the front that they're determined to try and get their sponsors some reward for the cash he's put up to get them to come and race over here in France. 2 Lithuanians and 6 Colombians started in that team. They've had a rough old ride because the rain and the wind and the terrible conditions in the early part of the tour, when we went up out of Spain through the bottom end of France over into Belgium and Holland and Germany and Luxembourg. Some disgusting conditions. It was almost like having about 5 or 6 one-day classics back to back as far as the Colombians were concerned. They just could not stand the pace. It really did burn them out. And so now with it looks like De Leon on the front again, and Yakimov has moved up, Ludwig I think has moved up there at the moment. I rather thought the Panasonic would never stray far from the front. They've managed to get one man in that first very important break, and they're going to try and do it yet again. But you can see now they're easing back a little bit, and yet again Tulip, who are 3 from the front, have been in all the action so far. The team Tulip, under the managership of Josi de Cau, one of the old TI rally riders that rode under Peter Post in the old days, who's now got, there goes Ludwig through, down about second in that line. Well, Peter Post, the team manager of now the Panasonic team, has over the years welded many successful bike riders and some very, very good team managers as well. And Josi de Cau, the Tulip team manager, is one of them. So they know what to do to get their riders in position to get some publicity. And Neil Stevens on the front, just a little bit ahead, looks like of Guy Newlands, but Stevens I think will be waiting to keep an eye on the green jersey, because that's on the shoulders of Laurent Jalabert, and there the great Ferris wheel going round and round in the Tuileries, where they have an enormous fun affair going full tilt all the time. I used to think Ferris wheel was something to do with iron until I discovered it was a Victorian engineer who gave his name to that particular very, very famous construction. Well, we got one here, and a great way of seeing France. You want to sit up there and go round and have a look right across the garden of the Tuileries. And it's another attack, and this is RMO, and Stevens is marking it and looks a bit as if Navens is going across as well. No, it's Sammy Morales. So everybody here wants to show on the Champs-Elysees. They've got their family and friends here. They know that the television cameras are broadcasting this right across the world, and everybody wants to show that they've cracked it. They've ridden now nearly 4,000 kilometres in 21 stages, and everybody wants to show that they're still in there with a shout. Looks like Piper's moved back up again into 4th place. What a man. Well, he's had bad luck in this tour. He had stomach trouble, and he's way off the general classification. Alan down in 124th place, but nevertheless, he recovered from that stomach trouble, battled on, and here we are then, the third of those 10 passages across the line. For we have the big sprint to see who'll win the final stage in this, the 1992 Tour de France. The yellow jersey is well down the here. Look, and when you see him in that bunch, you'll find all the blue and white jerseys of Benesto very close indeed. They're letting all these special sprinters have a go for this one, and there they go. So that's a very, very fierce, fast attack indeed from the rider from Castorama, number 42, Dominicano, who won the first stage down in San Sebastian when the race did that little circuit, the San Sebastian race curl out up the Jacobville Hill. This is the man, Dominicano, that won the stage that day, and yet again they're coming back in fine form. France have had some wonderful victories in the race this year. Thierry Marie even winning a sprint into Blois. We've had Laurent Fignon win a stage as well, and here this man, Dominicano, who won the very first stage of the Tour de France, is now trying to get away. Look at the fill splitting behind him. A little chasing group of some 5 men coming up to Dominicano. And on that part of the course, by the way, it looks fairly smooth from here, but it is pavé. It's these stone sets on which they've layered some tarmac, and it doesn't really make it all that smooth. Watch his bike bump up and down, and not only that, you don't get the impression either of how it drags all the way up toward the top to the Arc de Triomphe. It's a steady old drag all the way up, and you see on the left-hand inside the trees and those green fencing. Well, that's where they're tearing up the road. There used to be a road down there where people would go down with their cars and cause trouble. Well, they're in fact now rebuilding the whole of that area as pedestrianised pavement area, planting new trees and everything. It's been done by Jacques Chirac, the mayor of Paris, who said, let's put it back for people. People can walk along the Champs-Elysees and enjoy themselves and move the cars out into the centre of the road only. And that's what those green fencing is doing down there. They've completed, just where they're through now, on the riders' right-hand side, our left-hand side, is the first area, as you can see, is just cleared of cars, but mass with spectators. They're standing anything up to 10 deep, particularly near the finish line, and the field is splitting and trying to zigzag like the snake they always do. The massive crowd here that's watched the big cavalcade of publicity vehicles before the riders came into sight. There's also an enormous television screen so they can watch the action out on the screen as well. And this little group haven't, I think, got enough daylight at the moment. That bunch has reacted. And down they go. See all the camera at the top. They get a fantastic shot here, by the way, because they try to pitch the riders up through the spokes and the bike frame to get the Arc de Triomphe in the background. And of course, they started this morning down the other side of the Avenue de la Grande Armée. Once again, Kasputis is out here. The Lithuanian rider is determined to show that he's in here still riding this tour. And Kasputis, the Lithuanian, on the front at the moment. You see his short, sharp, punchy style, that's his sort of pursuiter that he is. Powerful man indeed, but they're going to have to start jumping faster than this, I think, to try and get away. It's just an all-out war at the moment as they're stretching the legs of all the riders and they're moving back up again. It'll have to wait, I think, until somebody gets their breath back and then slows down the field and they begin to get something that's going to work. This one isn't going to work, I don't think. There are too many people there in that group, but there you are. It could be foot in mouth time if I've got that wrong, because my size 12s will certainly choke me, I should think. And with Fondriest in there as well, and looks like Bontempi with him, perhaps they have got in a useful group of riders, if only they can split it. In my books, there are far too many at the moment to work successfully to keep this one going, but Fondriest is there. Daniel Menegas, the announcer in the background, really getting wound up here. He nearly lost his voice a few days ago with the work he's been putting in. It's been so exciting, and yet again, as they come down the other side of the finishing straight, that useful group of riders will put a clock on them to see what it looks like. The best gap we've had so far as Bontempi is on the front. And let's see who's coming across. It's quite a sizable gap, this one. The telephoto lens don't give you a true impression of what it is. It's certainly more than the 10-second that we had when that other group went through on the last lap. So there we are then. The gap is now 13 seconds as the Festina rider, Acacia da Silva, takes them through that main group of riders behind Festina. Well, what a turn-up for the books it would be if he can get Sean Kelly in with the shout for a sprint at the end. But Sean, I think, is a little bit tired at the moment. He's had a hard tour. Everyone had a hard tour, and that's why that group there, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 riders at the moment, swinging round. Now they see how they've eased a little bit, and I'm not quite sure if they've got enough force in here to keep that one going. There's a lot too many riders. Nobody really wants to lead out on this one and do too much work, but with 15 there, it should be quite tidy. It was 14.28 seconds, and here comes the main group yet again. Well, there's enough for the Panasonics in there. They've got 2 men away in that little group at the moment. The Newlands leading them, and it's splitting a little bit. I thought that perhaps the 15 riders would have difficulty because they're going to be all of rather unequal ability at the moment and physical fitness as well. So they've got to try and get the best 6 or 7 together, I'd have thought, on the front, and try and pull this one along a bit faster. But you never know. The tour's been full of surprises so far this year. We never seem to have one day anything like the other one. And here they come up out of the gloom. And little Jackie Durand then driving forward at the front with Bontempi in there. There's Durand that won the Tour of Flanders and surprised quite a few people. Well, he's in that one, and the French are going absolutely mad. So we've got quite a useful gathering of the clans as ever in this particular break at the moment, with different nationalities being represented. and Bontempi easing a bit back off the front. Well, he's coming to fine form. He's won a stage so far in this Tour, Guido Bontempi, and is he looking for yet another one here? So there, Fondries, the Italian ex-world champion, peels off the front. So this is an extremely good, useful group of riders, as Fidanza moves away as well. Well, he's got a very good turn of speed, so Fidanza in there. And looking back at the moment, I'm not quite sure whether they're going to persist with this one, but certainly they're a bit concerned about the group. But it was 14 seconds last time they come across the Place de la Concorde here, where on the 14th of July they had a massive parade as ever. And if you look at the lines and dots and things there, and you see some blue dots and blue lines and wonder what they are, well, that's where the parade took place. They haven't had time to wash them off the streets yet a while. And the great group of riders, the neutral service cars here are dropping in behind them, so that looks to me as if they're getting towards a 20 or 30 second, so fourth lap coming up now, the fourth time they've been across this particular group, and we'll put our little clock on it. They've been racing now for 2 hours and 36 minutes and 49 seconds, and the Spaniards are going mad at this one as they go through. There's quite a few Spaniards tucked into that one as well. And we've got the clock on to see what the gap is. So, in that group of riders at the moment, Jörg Müller, we've seen him away before for the Helvetia team. He's sat in there very nicely as well. Dominic Arno, who started it all, is still comfortably in that, together with his teammate Jackie Durand. And this is the main group coming through. Well, perhaps they've done it again. So many times the main bunch has sat up and said, well, we'll pull them back, and they've gone away. There's Sean Yates down the bottom of your left picture. The gap is now 28 seconds. So at 28 seconds, the gap for that leading group at the moment, that is becoming significant. Anything like half a minute is absolutely enough, I would have thought, for that group to stay away. We'll have to wait and see if they can stay away from this group here. That long arrowhead shows that the riders are now concerned and are beginning to mount a bit of a campaign to try and pull them back up that long slope. Before long, though, they're going to be out of sight on that big climb up towards the Arc de Triomphe. And looks like, is that Mochialdi there on the front? We'll have to wait for that one to come up a bit closer. But there's a terrific bunch of riders in here at the moment. The Festina rider on the front at the moment is Espinosa. The Kelly's teammate has made it, just coming through there is Muller for the Helvetia team. Jackie Durand is in there for the Castrama, and Arno as well. And the one rider we're seeing with a crash head on the far side is Fondries. Just in front of him is Fidanza. And this group of riders now at the moment, they've got the yellow car in, which says the gap is now up to half a minute. The last time check we had, it was 29 seconds. Well, the riders here, as they are coming along, they're going to have a sprint, by the way, on the Champs-Elysees as they come up on the sixth passage of this particular leg of the race then. Bontempi looking extremely good indeed. They've got some real driving men in that one, and Alan Piper it is yet again. The battling Australian is having a go. Brian Holm has just come off the front. Julip have obviously said we've got to put Fries on him for a sprint on this one, and they're having to work on the front. Well, there's so many teams in that leading group at the moment that I'm not certain that anybody from those teams will do anything to aid the chase. So with about 18 men away and 22 teams in the race, of the 198 starters that left San Sebastian 21 stages ago, we're down now to 130 of these riders, and you see them here, some very leg weary indeed. It's been the toughest tour they've had for many years, and many of these riders will be glad to see the finish flag, but they've still got work to do. They've got to try and pull back that group up in front, but we'll have to see if that's possible, because the gap is growing all the time. And there we are, 33 seconds it has grown. Well, and a very good shot of Montoya as they went round the top of the Champs-Elysees, the man who was second in the Tour de France. He was more towards the back of that little group, so we can count him out of the Maya team from this group we've got in front. So it might be a little Mochialdi, who also won a stage into Pau in the Tour this year, and I wonder if he's looking for a second victory. Been a very difficult thing to do. It's Indurain that's had 3 stage successes. 2 of them were the time trial stages of the Tour, and he also won, of course, Indurain the opening prologue as well. So the numbers of stages have usually been spread for different teams, one each here and there, but really Carrera have dominated this race in terms of the team. They're still in the lead by something approaching 25 minutes on team classification. And at the end of this race, they're going to be giving out the awards then for team classification as the riders now begin to get toward the top of this one. There isn't enough in it though for Carrera to lose that team classification. There's not enough in it either for the polka dot jersey to go off the shoulders of Claudio Chiappucci, because there's no mountains on this one. But this long climb up the Champs-Elysees and down the other side, it certainly saps the strength after a while. And I'm glad to see that Kasputis has made it into that group. He was there jumping around early on. So the Lithuanian, what an unusual group we've got here at the moment. One from Lithuania, we've got Spaniards in there, riders from Italy as well. Of course the French are in fine form as well. As the main group now are beginning to go a bit slower. They're all across the road, and the great cavalcade of vehicles going behind them, and there the team cars, you can just see them in the background when the cameras flick up, going through on what is almost a ceremonial day as far as the mechanics are concerned. But I can tell you it can be dangerous. This point they're at now, remember in the rain about 15 years ago when he's chucking it down, we had an almighty crash on that corner, and the mechanics had to leap out and replace wheels and replace bikes because there was so much at stake for the riders, and it took them something about 5 laps to get the whole thing back together. It wasn't until about 3 laps from the finish that the field came back together again. There was absolute mayhem, I can tell you. But today the mechanics are going to have quite a good day, I think. Perhaps the odd puncture, but they've been out sweeping the streets, so there won't be much there to cause trouble. They're looking back now, you see. The gap they know is over 30 seconds. They've seen the backboard, and on the front then, as Trondres takes over the main field behind. Well, I've put my clock on, but they've switched the shot back again. You can see the cherry picker there in the trees. That man with his camera is looking now to pick up the riders, and the pink jerseys of Once near the front. We look further back, you can see the green jerseys of Tulip, and this is the chase that's going on. Zed having a go as well. Surprisingly enough that still Panasonic are staying in there, but I think they'll be out to disrupt the activity. You can see then that the PDM team as well have got to try and get Van Poppel into contention. So a lot of good sprinters who are waiting to win this stage today are out of contention at the moment. Museo looking down the line for the champions jersey of Belgium, the black, yellow and red jersey. He's well towards the middle of this particular field at the moment, and Lotto then haven't chased this one down. Well, Kasputis just peels a little bit off the front. The Lithuanian easing himself back. Roscioli is in there, Espinosa, Bontempi, Muller, Arno, Fidanza, Durand. And that's Bontempi just towards the back. And I've now found the one from Buckler, and we'll give you that in just a moment. Although they are, I thought there were probably too many to stay away, but they've certainly managed to do it at the moment. As Franz Maassen it is, the Buckler rider, who hasn't shown much on the front, and he's a very, very strong man indeed. Buckler have had a bad tour too. They'd normally expect to pick up several stages with Yellow Nidem as they come up now towards the 5th passage of the Champs-Elysees. They do it 10 times, and then we have the big sprint, and it's Muller on the front then. So Muller it is right now as they come underneath that line. Will get the clock going. It was 28 seconds at this point last time, and this time as they go through, let's see what it is. Well, the Spanish crowd have gone a little bit quiet on the far side of the Champs-Elysees now. They are looking for the yellow jersey, who is well and truly locked in this little group here, but he can't lose any time on those men at the front that will cause him to have any trouble at all, because he came into this race today 9 minutes 46 seconds up on Claudio Chiappucci, who's 4:35 up, and there Alcala on the front. PDM really starting to wind this one up, because they've also got Breukink in the team, who's a good man. Martin Earl is chasing him down. I can see PDM moving forward. Breukink is up there at the moment as well of that chasing group, and they're looking back to see where Van Poppel has got, because he's the one that they're going to try, and the gap in fact had gone up to something about 37 seconds it was as they came through that time, my unofficial time check as they came through, and still then it's got to be PDM to pull this little group back. And just spinning off the front then, Fidanza for Gatorade, letting Espinosa of Festina take over. Then the rest of the field, there's Caspuris just behind the two Castorama riders we've got in here, Durand and Dana. And there is Bontempi behind them. This is a first-class group. Will they stay away? Come back to us after break to find out.
Eurosport Live.
Well, as you join us then on the Champs-Elysees, the group at the top of the climb, the gap had come down to 28 seconds for that leading pack, because the PDM team have really turned the wick up and they want to get Van Poppel, I said before, in with a chance of the sprint, and his team are doing a magnificent job. You can see at the top of the screen, PDM all in white with little black lapels on them, and this group in front now begin to get a bit frenzied in their efforts to stay away. As on the front now, starting to work is Frans Maassen. Then Bontempi swings through. Well, they now recognise that gap that they had looked very good at one time, approaching 40 seconds, is in fact coming down under the pressure of PDM. Still, you can see that enormous screen picking up the action for all the people on the Champs-Elysees. But they come down now, the gap is beginning to come closer and closer. Put another clock on that one and see what it is, because I'm looking back up the road here, and look at that long string on your screens. You can see the pressure that's being put on by PDM at the front, and I think they're aided and abetted there, because there are other riders infiltrating who are also now got eyes on the main. There I can see Museo with his horde of Lotto riders round about him, and they'll have to sweep and swing into action then, because we're getting towards the back end of this race. When they're in the mid-saddle pack, I can see Sean Yates in his British Champions jersey. What a great day this is for Britain, because we've never had the British Pro Championship jersey actually up and down the Champs-Elysees at the end of a tour. All our other tour riders over the years, from Simpson and Hoban and Robinson and Ramsbottom and all the lot that's finished here in the days gone by, we never had one of the British professional champions actually riding in the tour in the past. But Sean Yates is just that, showing off his jersey to the massive crowd. There's so many people here on holiday at the moment, just coming out to enjoy the sunshine and discovering they've got one of the world's greatest free spectacles in front of them, because this lot here are showing off their great abilities as athletes in front of a massive audience that haven't paid a penny piece to come here and hang over the barriers. They're just watching free of charge, enjoying the sunshine and enjoying the atmosphere of this great race. And I'm enjoying it so much I forgot to press my clock that time, so I don't know if it's come down less than 28 either. So the little group here, the gap is still coming down, and I think see Muller's taking a drink and easing a bit off the front. Perhaps he's finding it a bit cooked now. The sun has been beating down in Paris day after day. It hasn't rained for ages, so the buildings are very hot. It keeps the heat overnight as well. And next day when the sun comes up under those circumstances, believe you me, it soon gets very hot indeed. It's been the same throughout the whole of the tour for these riders. Once we came out of the wet conditions in the northern part of France, the sun has baked down. Temperatures in the 30 degrees, and right now France going absolutely mad with this one. Of course, the world would have got round too that in the Olympic Games this morning they got a bronze medal in the team time trial. They've never had one of those before. They've only been best of fourth, and in fact one of the riders in this race at the moment was a member of the French team that got fourth at the Seoul Olympic Games 4 years ago, Thierry Laurent, who tried to get away yesterday. Well, the PDM team have just eased off. There goes Yates, there goes the Museo. So PDM have done a lot of damage to cut this one back, but they've eased a bit now. And let's see which other team is going to take up that chase. So Guy Newlands is in there at the moment for the Panasonic team to help Fondriest. There's Fondriest going off the front at the moment. There's those Maassen taking over. Well, they're riding at the moment on quite a good tempo. This isn't one of those eyeballs out jobs. I think they're just letting the other lot wear themselves down slightly at the moment. See all the massive vehicles in the background, ready there for the VIPs, travelling all the way with this tour. See your Coca-Cola vehicles there. What you don't see is the amount of vehicles that have to travel with this race. The big buses for the riders, the big trucks carrying all their spares and their clothing and what have you, and all the television trucks as well, the radio trucks, the press people. It's an enormous entourage, believe you me. It takes takes enormous organisation, and closing Paris down for all this love is also a mammoth thing to do, but there is always a welcome into Paris for the lads in the Tour de France, and they just bring the place to a... What a great shot that is. Look at them, there they go. Alan Piper yet again coming up here. Well, whoever wins this race might as well buy Alan a beer. I think he's been doing all he can to cut it back. Their best sprinter, Herman Frison, still in there at the moment. And as they come through, the gap is 27 seconds. 27 to the group, so they're holding it as it was before. And that will be some relief, I think, to these riders here to get 27 seconds lead and hold it. And there they are. Well, they're keeping the following vehicles in place at the moment. And the sprint up the Champs-Elysees, the PMU sprint, that's the French equivalent of the tote. Foreshortened again, that 27-second gap we had last time. As up they come towards that one, I think they're more concerned really on trying to stay away from that bunch behind than picking up the sprint at the PMU special sprint. But that's the last one of the whole of the race. There'll be points 6, 4 and 2 to the riders over in that particular order. But they're no threat to the green jersey at all at the moment. It looks like it's going to go very safely to Museo, the green jersey, this year in the Tour de France. And look at there, you can see all those vehicles massed behind it, and there, straight through the arch in the distance, is the La Défense, where they start this morning. And those great big buildings you could see, shadowy buildings in the background. Those were the buildings all around the Défense, where they're building some magnificent new office blocks and hotels and what have you on what used to be a fairly rough part of the town. All this way in which they are regenerating the cities of the world, putting money in to bring business enterprise into towns, to provide activity for people still in the town. Well, that's what's happening down there at La Défense. That's where they started this morning on the stage that's taking them 141 kilometres on this, the 21 stage of the race. And still Alan Piper ploughing his lone fellow up towards the front with the rest of the field sat on his wheel. There, the green jersey. First time we had a very good close-up look at that one, unless I've not taken it in before. There's so much colour here in the Tour de France, not only on the jerseys, but also the flags and banners along the side. But there's not much colour on the buildings, by the way. This is one part of the world where I'm saying how they make the cities look beautiful, where the signs, the neon signs, are only in black and white. Well, they're white on the front for the light to shine through and black on the sides, because you're not allowed to put up coloured neon signs on the Champs-Elysees to distract from the beauty of this particular famous street. The only exception is at the top then. There were Hernandez Belo got that one from Espinosa and Sargent. If my mistake, it's Sargent in there. I had got it down as Newlands. I shall slap my wrist for that one. So the only exception then to the coloured signs is a green cross at the top of the Champs-Elysees, where the chemist, they have the lights flashing there for obvious reasons, that if you want to find where the chemist is, you need to see that one. You don't want to see it in a white flashing light. That would cause some confusion. Well, Rose is the rider for Lotto, just behind Bontempi in the blue and white for Carrera. And I beg Sergeant's pardon, because we've been watching this little lot go through, and a hell of a lot of riders in there at the moment, and I've just picked up at long last the rider from the Maya team. There's been so many ducking and diving and jumping about all over the place, and it is in fact number 200 and looking down my list here, they're all over the place. 125, it is in fact Mochialdi, which I thought it was. So young Mochialdi, who lives in Vitoria in Spain, is in that group that's being chased down now by PDM, that have got some company, because here on that unusual bicycle riding for the Once team, we have Aldanondo, I'll get that one right for the tour finishes, Aldanondo just working away at the front as well as they stream through. That's Martin Early, has done his little stint on the front as well. Well, you can see the baton waving at the commissaire there wants the front vehicles to go that bit faster because the bunch behind are getting just a bit of shelter, but not enough, I think, to make any difference. On the right-hand side, that's Kasputis in the pink and white sleeves of the Ralco Rada. They've got the least amount of money, by the way, of anybody, as Muccioli comes off the front, having done his little stint. I mentioned it yesterday that they had something around about £1,300 or thereabouts of prize money until they get whatever they finish with in today's race and their overall standings. They're the lowest team in the whole of the tour, and yesterday there was a special prime put up of 500 francs, that's a equivalent of £50 or thereabouts, and it was in fact won by one of the riders from the team that's come all the way here from Colombia, and that won the Postobon team, so that £50 or 500 francs, nearly double their winnings so far. Top shot of the work that's going on near the... In fact, on the right-hand side, you can just about see that pyramid of the Louvre, and there, that group of riders swinging round, and still they've not been brought back. Well, this could be quite something. We've been racing now for just coming up to 3 hours of activity, and still on the front PDM and Panasonic beginning to get themselves positioned as well. Well, up in the front group, Fondrias has got a fair old sprint himself, actually. The last year's World Cup leader, when this race is over and done with, the Eurosport will be bringing you the World Cup. We're going to do the San Sebastian race, then the Wincanton race, and off over to the Grand Prix of Montreal. And I saw an arm come up from one of the Motorola riders calling for the team car to come up, maybe wanting some care and attention. So the lead now, 36 seconds, has been confirmed officially. Well, it's gone back up again. I thought the chasing group had fragmented a little bit, and now Marson going through. Fidanza it was that just put in the few turns on the front. And Kasputis, Fidanza's back in again, so it's broken up a little bit. Well, that's a turn up for the books then, as far as this lot are concerned. But already under pressure. Is that going to be the split? Here we are, the 7th of 10 passages. Marson looks back, Kasputis comes through, Fidanza's behind him. Then the class rider in there at the moment as well. That's Espinosa, eases off the front. On the lines, Kasputis that takes him through. He's in fact edging away just a little bit at the moment. That is a gap that's opening up a little bit, and is he going to persist with that one? I wouldn't have thought they're going to let him go. What a fine ride he's done, this young Lithuanian, as the main pack swings into the straight yet again. Right then. It's Arostea on the front. Well, they've had some success as far as Yemen's concerned, already a stage victor in the Tour when most of his top men were out of the race through sickness or crashes. And as they go through this time then, PDM still driving forward. The gap on my clock says 39 seconds, so it's still the same as it was before. Well, this could be it. Just a quick look there at Yarman as he went through for Arostea, the red and yellow colours, stage winner in the Tour. 21 stages, 21 victors, hands still up for the pink jersey at the back. But everyone, I suppose you could say, is a victor to just complete this great race. Nearly 4,000 kilometres of action. The noise is absolutely intense as the cars go by. Give me a toot on the horn when they see somebody they know. These riders here have no chance to wave to anybody. They've got to keep the thing rolling. And it's getting very, very hot out there. The dust is coming up off the wheels of the vehicles as they go through, and it hangs in the air, and these riders breathing it in. And Muccioli goes towards the front of it. The rider from Vittoria, winner of that stage into Po this year, it became almost a hero in his own town, that very famous town for bicycles. And here we have then the lovely view of that pack, and that says when they're gutter to gutter, by the way, and they're across what is almost like a four-lane motorway here, that the speed has dropped of the chasing group, and that could be that. We could have a turn up for the books here pretty well year in, year out. We see a bunch sprint finish, never one when a group goes away as big as this one, and certainly the pink jerseys coming through now. They may, of course, be inclined to be happy as Indurain is near the front. He's no worry about his yellow jersey, providing he stays upright. But there they go then, whizzing around the top of this little flick at the top. There we are, race for the Lotto team on the back. And the chase coming down. Well, Lotto not aiding the chase. They're leaving it to the pink jerseys, who've done this day in, day out. Up there, the activity of the Onse team have kept the green jersey in contention for the sprints all the way through. The team leader, Diaz Zabala, has just been on the front, working away. Neil Stevens is with him. There's Sean Kelly, just back off the front. Well, perhaps Kelly's going to try and take the bunch sprint if he can get there. Sean looking very comfortable. And there he is, just behind the pink jerseys of the Onse team. So they swing round the top and come back down the other side. Still Onse trying to pull back the leaders. Mainfield goes down the Champs-Elysees yet again. There we're happily seeing the board counting down the laps to go, and there it's gone up to 42 seconds. This could be unstoppable. And with these riders here, the Spanish crowd have gone a little bit quiet. There's a mass of them opposite the finishing straight here, but they're waving their flags when it comes down, because they know in that breakaway group there is Espinosa, who is an Italian rider for the class team as well, and Mochialde, one of the Basque riders from Vitoria, is in there as well. But the all eyes every time it goes up and down is on the yellow jersey of Miguel Indurain, riding into what looks like being his, and certainly will be, his second successive victory in the Tour de France. And this very, very useful bunch of riders here have not let up the pace for one moment all the way through. And the 45 seconds it looks like it's getting towards now, so that could be curtains as far as the main pack is concerned. It's 6 kilometres round this course here. That's just under 4 miles. And they're the horses of Mali. You saw those rampant horses in the background, by the way. I mentioned the other day that there's two sets of copies, and in the Louvre Museum there's the actual original Mali horses made of marble. They were so valuable they actually moved them from Mali, the little town we went through yesterday, or village in fact, and put them in the Place de la Concorde because they thought they looked so nice. The Mali residents objected, but that was what they did. And then recently they moved the marble ones into the Louvre and made a duplicate set. So as they're making a duplicate set for the Champs-Elysees, the residents of Mali said, hey, give us a set as well. So they've got their horses back as well, but not the original marble ones. They're safely locked away for people to see. So many magnificent museums in and around the centre of Paris for people to see, but here they're seeing live action. This is bike racing at its best at the end of this magnificent tour. Still a turn up for the books, not the usual bunch sprint finish that we see on the normal finishes in the Tour de France. This is an oddball with a little breakaway group working its way through. And on the front now at the moment, that is Dominic Arnaud, number 42, winner of a stage. So we've got previous stage winners in the Tour here. Both Arnaud and Mochialde have won stages this year in the Tour de France. Can they make it a double? Jörg Müller, the young rider for Helvetia, slotting into second place. He's had a bit of a few soft taps at the front. Look at the gaps opening up. Well, this is an ideal time for somebody who's got a bit of strength to try and drive away from these. I would think that one or two of the riders aren't going to be too keen to keep it down to a sprint finish. There we are, the gardens of the Tuileries, a beautiful park to walk and enjoy. So right in the centre of Paris. It's been laid out so magnificently by Haussmann many years ago, who's even got a boulevard named after him, not far from where they're going now. Swinging round these riders in hot pursuit, or now cold pursuit, going down under that bridge where it's a bit chilly, a bit dark, and the eyes have to become accustomed to the change in the light as they come back out the other side. A little bit of sprint out the saddle to flex your muscles and ease your backside. And there they go. Well, the big drums are beating on the Champs-Elysees as well. It seems all the bands moved down here now. Some of these Spaniards have brought their local band with them, and it's getting deafening. They've only come to see one thing, but many of the people here have come to see who'll win this final stage. The gap, 35 seconds, it's coming down, the pressure is on. Well, they don't often let a group get away at the end of the tour to have a little bit of a dive all on their own. The big sprinters will be getting the whip out now to their riders. And for some reason at all, it looks as if Arnaud here is not going to contribute. He did a little bit of a turn down the other side when the course ran parallel to the Seine, but he's just drifted onto the back of that little lot now. Here we are then, the 8th one coming up. Well, this has been the longest break I've seen on the Champs-Elysees for many, many a long year. We've had all sorts. We've had cliffhanger finishes when we've had a time trial, and Greg LeMond getting down here just 8 seconds ahead of Fignon to take the yellow jersey. We've had time trials here before many years ago, but now with a big bunch sprint like this one, normally part of the course, these lads have decided, no, not for us, but Oncé have other ideas. What a day it would be if they could get up there and let Jalabert win the sprint. But you see Oncé have got a passenger. The green jersey in there, that's the Jalabert who's leading on the points. Sean Kelly's infiltrated in the blue jersey, and just behind there's a black and yellow and red jersey of Johan Museeuw. He's sitting on the back of Jalabert at the moment. He's going to be so close on this one, and also recognising the danger of another break coming. Phil Anderson has moved up as well. There is the rest of the field. So most of the sprinters now are getting themselves positioned in case this group comes back. Well, it's going to be Brinkmanship. They've gone round 8 times, they do 10 passes, and then it's a big sprint after that. So you ask me, or you try and tell me, I don't know, are they going to catch them? What we'll do when they come down the other side, we'll put the watch on them. Great ride then by the Oncé team yet again. We've seen this pink train, the old flamingos flying along, and I can see also that as the Motorola jerseys are moving up as well, it looks like they think there might be a chance. Kelly is on his own, but he's got one of his teammates in there right now, so I don't think he's going to attack this one. He's going to wait for a sprint as the field there, the yellow jersey. Good look at him. Roche is on his wheel as well. The Irishman sat just behind him. Winner of a stage in the Tour this year. Stephen Roche lying at 9th overall in general classification. Happy with his performance this year. So too was Claudio Chiappucci, who said that in-rain was so strong he just couldn't be beaten this year. So Claudio Chiappucci, when we get to the end of this race, will have to be content with his second time up on the rostrum in second place. He was 3rd last year, but he's been also 2nd in the Tour of Italy this year, 2nd in the Tour of Italy the year before. One wonders when Claudio Chiappucci can run out the winner, but he certainly has got the polka dot jersey to show for all his troubles in the Tour this year. Well, the cameramen have moved from that top of the Champs-Elysees. There's only one left there now because they're moving down to the finishing straight. There's a great mass of cameramen down now here, ready to get their happy snaps of the joyful victor. The big occasion, the second time that the Tour de France will have been won by Miguel Indurain, the first time ever a Spanish rider will have won 2 on the trot, and the reception committee is getting ready. The VIPs are here, the gendarmes are out in force, the bands are going to play, the Spaniards are going to go bananas, but we still don't know who's going to win this particular stage, because it could still be touch and go with this group here. TVM only got 3 riders in there, just quickly looked at that jersey as they swung round. Other teams have suffered. I mean, 3 riders, they are down to 28 seconds. 3 riders left out of the 8 men that started. Ariastier now have only got 3 men left. Conti, Ellie and Yarman out of the 8 that started. Other teams that have been decimated by the pace have been Helvetia. They've got 4 men left out of the 8 that started and dropped 4 on the process, so they've got 50% left. And most of the teams, in fact all teams, have lost some riders, but the Gatorade Shadow Dax team for Gianni Bugno only lost to Baldi. They're still 7 strong. They're one of the few teams then that's only lost 1 man. The rest have lost anything between 2 and up to 5 riders. It's been tough, it's been hard, it's been hot, and still this little group stays away. And for the Postobon team, Casputis just doing his spell on the front, but look at them coming up now. We'll do another time check here because that gap is coming down. The furious chase from the Oncé team is beginning to have an effect. The riders behind now recognising that they've got a real old race on their hands, and they might well do it yet again. This is the 8th of the passes. There we have them riding their hearts out as ever then as Aldonando goes through. And they've got 1 or 2 helpers. Looks like long last the lads from Motorola said we'll help in case we can get in with a chance of winning a stage this race. They did when Hampson won the stage, and the gap at the moment has come down. It's 25 seconds. Well, that's only just another 5 seconds off that original gap at the last check, but still it's come down by 5, but it's still not enough on this course. They've got to take something like about 10 or 15 seconds out. They've got to be able to see them. They want to get the following cars out of the way, then they can start dashing across. driving hard to get across. But when they do that, it might still be that somebody in this group has preserved some strength to go again if the big field comes up to them. So the gap there now 25 seconds, and it's coming down all the time. Bontempi eases off the front. So does Mochialde. Looking back, that's interesting then, because Philippe Louviot from the Onse team, I think if his team manager could get a message to him, he'd say, hang on, drop back into the back of this little lot. I think now, as Onse are doing the driving on the front, and they'll be able to see it across the other side, then I think Onse are going to say to their man, come on, don't aid this chase, sit there and wait for us to come up. And that's just what they're doing at the moment. But Fondriest, who was one of the early attackers, who went after Casputis, looking back, and he's sitting up as if to say we might get caught. Now this is very dispiriting when you've been away all this time and you see the pack behind massing to come charging up to you. You have to think, well, have I got strength left to go? Can we hang on then towards the end? Look at the pink jerseys of Onse. Well, they came into this race without Lejarreta, the Ironman who rides the Tour of Spain, the Tour of Italy and the Tour de France. They came into this race also without Mauri, who won the Tour of Spain last year. So they were depleted in strength, were the Onse team, and then when they started in the race this year, Zuller gained the yellow jersey on day one, but being a young rider they took him out on the rest day in Switzerland. But Onse, despite the fact they've been depleted, despite the fact they're a young team, have now helped cut the gap to 20 seconds. This is going to be a real cliffhanger. You could sell seats for this one, but everybody at home, you can get on the edge of your seat and see if they're going to catch them. We've got two things to happen then. One, will they catch the breakaway group? Two, if they do, who is going to be the winner? And look, see how they're zipping across and zipping over on the far side. Marc Sergeant's gone across on the far side. This little group recognise now that the strong men have got to go, and their race for the Lotto team goes across. There's Casputis, they're jumping all over the place, and there's Marcin trying to get up there to them. They're back again, and it was Marc Sergeant that started that little flurry of activity. He's realised unless they go that bit quicker, they're not going to get this one. A little bit of a gap opening up. Roos and Sergeant, the two Belgians, 2 by 2 they go, chasing after one lone rider who zigzagged out of sight, and it's Muller from the Helvetian team. Will put a clock on it again as if they go across the 9th of them. Well, again, Daniel Van Gas making the crowd get behind these riders to try and have them stay away. Everybody likes to see a gutsy performance rather than just patrolling round and going for the sprint. So they're split now. Very much split. Fidanza tries to go across that one, and at the back all sorts of trouble because hanging on for grim death right off the back there. Jackie Durand is in trouble. I put the clock on as they came up that line. Martin early on the front now for PDM. Then in there still the Onse team. One or two of the Benestos begin to come through. Still looking anxious is Phil Anderson. The gap is down to 20 seconds now. A mere 20 seconds separating those flying men at the front of this big bunch who are massing. I can see the Panasonics beginning to get round Ludwig in the centre of that bunch. You look for a wodge of red, yellow and blue jerseys, and I think they've already decided now if it's going to be a sprint they'll get round Ludwig and start driving him through as well. He was in the midst of that pack, maybe about 30 or 40 off the front was Ludwig, looking remarkably calm and relaxed. The man who won the Olympic Games in Seoul last year, now in the Champs-Elysees looking for a victory this time. He's got to get this bunch first though. And there, a back view of the riders, there, a front view of the riders. And look at them now, snaking behind. Marcin, then Muller, and Fidanza's got up to them. He was the one who spotted the danger. Italian who rides the same team as Gianni Bugno here on his Italian Bianchi bicycle. What a League of Nations we've got here, not only in the race itself but hanging over the barriers. People just come to Paris for a weekend and discover they've got the Tour de France. If they come from far and wide and don't know what the hell it is, they get absolutely locked into it, I can tell you. The electric atmosphere, the noise, the sound, the speakers, and on the side of the road people selling hats and t-shirts and pins as they call them in France. They're great souvenir hunters, and in fact the stand stand I looked at not long ago before I came on air. They were selling yellow Indran t-shirts. There weren't many left, I can tell you, so that man's made a few bob today out of the Tour de France. Well, this little group then, Marson at the front with Sajan. That's Marson going round, Sajan just following on behind him, Rose with him as well from the Lotto team, and it's been recognised because the rest are coming up very quickly indeed. Bontempi towards the back, Jackie Durand, the young rider, is at the tail end of this little lot. He's not contributing at the moment. I think he may be a bit cooked, or perhaps he's recognising that they are coming up, he needs something to go. So hats off then to Onsay and to PDM for bringing this big field within striking distance, but they still haven't got that breakaway. This then, the 9th lap, they've got 10 laps to do, then it's the big charge. Well then, here we go, down the other side, long shot yet again, and it's splitting, that little group at the front, and one or two riders are trying to get across it. We'll soon see who the strongest men are. Well, Marc Sajan is there. He was the rider who, with the Buckler rider, came into all sorts of trouble. In fact, it was Sajan and Marson who got some stick because they wouldn't drive away the other day on the stage when they sat there, and in the end they didn't get the stage at all, and they got a telling off. I can tell you the team manager had to go and bury the hatchet and apologise to the organisation for letting it all slip, because Calotti went away from Marson and Sajan. Marson got second place by about a millimetre from Sargent that day. That was the stage from La Bourboule to Montluçon, and so now Sargent and Marson are back in action again, but this time they're not sitting up and having a discussion, although last time the discussion was really because of the work that wouldn't be done by the two riders together, but right now they're having to work right here, and they in fact have got Fondries has got up there to him, so Fondries has joined up with Sajan. And they're now two of the Panasonics. Whoa, gosh! Some people stepped forward to go across the crossing. In fact, they're photographers, they're official photographers, and they nearly got swiped by the riders coming at them, swinging round to try and keep out of sight, and the photographer stepped out, and he nearly got the shot of a lifetime and the shock of a lifetime all in one big hit. Well, the police now, if you watch as we come across the line this time, you'll see a whole load of blue shirts coming out. They're getting ready to stop the people climbing over the double layer of banners that are barriers that are here in the finishing area, because it's getting so close to the end, and they want to make sure none of the enthusiastic Spaniards decide that it's time to do what happened in the British Grand Prix when all the spectators decided that they'd go out there and welcome Nigel Mansell. Well, here at the moment the spectators would love to leap across, but of course the trouble is, as with the Grand Prix, you've got lots of stuff still going on behind the victor, and there are lots of cars out there with bikes on them that will come in long after the winner crosses the line, so they have to be very, very careful not to go over the top of those barriers and get in the way of the tired riders and the vehicles as well. So Sajan on the front, then we have Fondries, the two Panasonic riders. They'll be riding in different colours unless Mr. Panasonic changes his mind at the end of this year. Sajan just easing off. That smooth flowing style of Fondries, to last year's World Cup winner. And are these three of these back? There we are, you see, they've had enough. Mochialdi is still going. They're going to reel in that little lot, so we've only got these 4 or 5 men at the front at the moment. Little Mochialdi is still pressing on. Bontempi's gone back into the group. Fondries has gone back in there. They've caught all by little Mochialdi is still going away. Mochialdi from Vitoria, got a little rider that he is determined not to give up on this one, and I'm sure the Spanish here and the Basques will give him an enormous round of applause for a lone effort, and what a great stage he won over into Pel. There he goes, just under the bridge on his own, but I think he's going to get swallowed up by this big field here. And here they come then with Fondries on the front then, followed by Sajan. And then we have behind them Marson. In fact, one of the riders that's got up there from the Castorama team, it's got to be Dominic Arnaud, I should have thought, because when I looked last, I rather thought that the young lad who won the Tour of Flanders was a bit stuffed at the time, and therefore I didn't expect that Jackie Durand would make it. And there we go through with Marson on the front. Sajan just done his turn on the front. They know now, it's now or never for getting your name up there in the Hall of Fame. And it is Dominic Arnaud then on the front. Then we see Fondries going through. So Are they going to be reeled in by that bunch of riders? The massive crowd here beginning to gather. There's just hardly a square inch of space where the photographers are, all looking for a chance to get this famous race on film. The race which has been the one for the EC this year. It's been outside France, touching every country that is on the edge of France. Next year, the France will be the Tour de France. There'll be no way they're going to take it outside France. They're going to keep it in France, but we hear in 1994 rumours are that it may well go over the, or rather under the channel, to England for 2 or 3 stages in Great Britain, and then back to the traditional finish in Paris. There we are then for the 79th time that they've come through to finish in Paris, and this is the first time they did it in 1975 that they have the finish up the Champs-Elysees. And still on the front then, going hard as he can do, is Fondriest up there, and there goes the bell. This is the final lap then. They've done their 9, they're on the 10th lap, and it's Fondriest on the front, and the field is coming up very fast indeed. What is the gap going to be this time? And still burying themselves, it's the Once team on the front, and they've done a fantastic job, and the bell rings in their ears, and as they go streaming through, they've got the gap down to something like about 10 seconds. It is a phenomenal piece of work by the Once team to put their man in the green jersey in contention. But can these 5 stay away? Still there, 2 from Panasonic in there, 1 from Buckler also in there, 1 from Castorama. So watch out for the colours of those jerseys, these long shots on your camera. The red, yellow and blue colours are Panasonic's. The blue and white colours are those of the Castorama rider Arno that's in there, and also in blue and white the Buckler rider is Franz Maassen, searching for a stage victory here in Paris this time. But this big bunch, I've got other ideas. They've still got to climb up towards the final turn at the top by the Arc de Triomphe, by the grave of the unknown warrior where the flame burns, and there with 13 seconds left, is it enough for these to stay away? These 5 men, they'll be thankful to get up this long drag. It will be hurting their legs now because they have done some 62 kilometres up and down this, or nearly 62 kilometres. They're in the final kilometres of this race now, up and down the Champs-Elysees, and riders are exploding in the back, and that looks like a Casio da Silva trying to come across. This is the danger for the riders that are chasing it down for their big sprinters. See the white jerseys of PDM getting Van Poppel in action, and the poor tired legs of Maassen here. He's trying to dig down deep to get just a bit more out there on the pedals so they can turn at the top, because it's all downhill from here, and that's the final chance they've got, I think, because they're still coming up very, very fast indeed. They might yet be caught. Well, this is an absolute cliffhanger. We've seen so many finishes in the past when riders have just collapsed on the line. As they come round now, Maassen leads them through, then Sajan, then Arnaud, then Fondriest, and there they go. So the Festina rider trying to get up there on the front then has got Gilles de Leon with him, and it's all splintered. The fast men have moved through. The green jersey of Jalabert just following the national championship jersey of Museo. Then nicely placed those two to settle their differences, but no doubt about it, there's not enough points in this one for Museo to get the green jersey at the end of the race. The jersey you just looked at there, 45 at the back, that's Jackie Durand, who has been pulled back in. He was in that breakaway group that had been away lap after lap after lap, and still you can see they've taken the vehicles out from behind that breakaway group, and they're still thundering along. The difference in speed, the bunch behind are chopping, jumping, slowing, jumping, slowing, as different riders with different strengths come on the front, but the riders at the front have got to still swing around smoothly, swing around easily, take it in turns, hold yourself, don't dare look back, because if you look back at this lot, it's a frightening thing to see this big pack coming at you, and the crowd then in the finishing straight will see them come whizzing down here. You can see on the left-hand side all the policemen getting rid of the gendarmes here to seal off the road, to stop people coming down here. The crowd's applauding their effort, and have they applauded the Once team as well for drawing back that group, but they still haven't done it. Looking to the left now, you'll get some idea of the crowd. Indurain, they've got Olé all over the banners here. Viva esta Condio, Indurain is the signs, and everywhere the Basque flags, the enormous banners they brought with them. You can see that lot on the left-hand side, and the gap now is only just about got tail in it. Oh, it's Neil Stevens on the front. Neil Stevens, the Australian rider, is bringing them up. The man who used to ride in the Channel 4 Kellogg series on television. You've probably seen him. Then he went and retired. He actually was one of the 2 members of the ANC team many years ago before it developed developed into the ANC Halfords team that rode the Tour de France. He's still in there pitching for the pink jersey, but they're breaking up in front. They've recognised then there may be some tired legs, and they've gone yet again. Remember, this is the final lap, and they'll come up towards the 1,000-metre point as they come along by the Tuileries, and 3 men are still in with a shout as they go past the Grand Assembly building in the background. There, Fondriest looks back. They've still got Roos with them, and he's got Arnaud as well. Well, Fondriest, I think he said that's enough, and he's probably going to go back and try and look after the interests of Ludwig. Well, it's all over now. This is the one where we go for the sprint finish, or do we? Other riders have second thoughts, and though Jesper Skibby then moves up then for TVM. He's a good roller, but I don't think he's got the sprint to get this one. So who's going to get it on the line this time? The final sprint of the Tour de France. This is going to be an absolute cracker as they now are beginning to move round towards the final strip of going underneath the Louvre. They'll have to come down this straight where the crowd now know that they could well be seeing a bunch sprint, but it's still very close. Skibby has got up to that one lone leader at the moment. This is going to be, I think, a chance for the big hitters. People like Ludwig will be in there. People like Van Poppel will be in there. Jalabert in the green has already moved up into a good place at the moment. And now then, as they swing round, I can see that Kelly has moved himself up into about 20th place. It may not be quite enough, though, as far as Kelly is concerned, to get there in the sprint, but you never know. They've still got a long way to go. Down into the darkness of the tunnel for the last time, sucking in the cool air. They come out still, going off the front. Looks like Fondriest has gone yet again. Have to have another quick look. The green jersey is lying about 5th back from the front, and still then it is Fondriest going yet again. Twice on the trot he's tried to get away. And in fact, no, it's not Fondriest, my mistake. It is in fact Ekimov that's gone away this time. Ekimov has tried to go for the long one, and he's trying there. This man who's the points champion of the world, previous pursuit champion of the world. As an amateur, he broke 11 world records on the track. Is he going to get the sprint here in the Champs-Elysees? And you can see coming up from behind, the Lotto team are working hard to put Museo in with a chance of winning this one again. Museo, victor in 1990, but can he catch this man from Russia who's going away at the front at the moment? Ekimov showing his pursuing style. World champion pursuiter as a professional and an amateur. Can he hang on in there? They're coming up so fast indeed, and it's still Ekimov on the front. Ekimov looks back. Well, that's probably the worst thing he can do as he turns the corner. There's only about 300 metres to go, and he's got it now as he comes up the finishing straight. It is still Ekimov there, and Friesen comes off on the other side. Ekimov is beginning to die on his wheels at the moment. What's going to happen with this one on the far side? Museo launches out. A magnificent sprint. Museo starts to go. Friesen is with him as well. They start to come towards it now. This time Museo's come out very quickly indeed, and through the centre burst Ludwig. Ludwig goes through the centre, and it's Ludwig on the line. Ludwig gets that one. Ludwig from Van Poppel with Museo there, and in 4th place was Jalabert. So that was Ludwig that got it off the line. What a phenomenal finish, and that was great work by Panasonic. Bad luck for Ekimov, but Ludwig came up so fast indeed. The train, the Panasonic train, had taken him up to the right spot at the right time, and Ludwig it was that I say was the victor, and the smoke bombs are going up over on the far side. Ludwig being congratulated by Søren Lillehold. That was a phenomenal sprint. That's the man, by the way, that was the Olympic Games champion 4 years ago when in Seoul he came out of a bunch of riders just like this. That's phenomenal sprint, taking him across the line, and Ludwig wins the stage. And over there, the green jersey alongside Museo shows that still the points jersey will be on the shoulders of victor in that section of the race, Jalabert. But the yellow jersey now being surrounded by a whole phalanx of officials to take him up for the presentation. Look at that top shot now, as through behind Lillehold came Ludwig. He overtook Ekimov, who died almost on the line, and Ludwig, look at the surge of that speed. He had so much in his legs to take him through across the line. He had to kick for the second time though, because Van Poppel was coming up to him very quickly indeed. And there we are, he had that strength to hang on, and straight for the line he went. And for Panasonic, the moment of glory they've been searching through all the way through the race, a win in a bunch sprint, and it went to Ludwig just ahead of Van Poppel. Well, there we are, the Bois de Boulogne in the background, the quiet, peaceful woods and the little lakes there, and the people sunning themselves and listening to the race on their radios. They'll now know who won the final stage. There's no change at all in the overall general classification as we look again to see how Museo took the far line to come through. He hadn't got any shelter there, and he had a beautiful lead out from his team, and it was left down to those experts, the sprinters, to stay in contention all the way to the line. So there we are, Ludwig hammering across, and he got it as he knows best, lunging, and that was it. Even Yakimov was elated. Well, Yakimov, who tried to get that stage, he threw his arms up in the air, but for sheer elation, I think he was not worried because he saw his countryman and teammate get that one. Of course, Konishev from the Soviet Union won the stage here last year, so it's not the first time that a Soviet Union rider, as it was, of course, they now call themselves United or something, don't they? A team of United States or the CIS or what have you, but nevertheless, and we can see them all trickling across the line there. Looks like Andy Hamstonow on the far side, who rode extremely well for Motorola, got himself into third slot, but unfortunately now out of contention for third, because when they get up there on the podium, as they say, at the end of this race, it will be a familiar sight though. We joggle the pack this year as we look at that final sprint yet again. There was no impeding this time like we had last year when there was an upending of Abdul Japarov. I've just seen Claudio Capucci go by the way, to the finishing area for the presentation, and he's wearing a crash hat which has been painted white and it's got the red dots on it, so they're so certain he's going to keep the polka dot jersey to the end. They've actually got him a crash hat decorated as the King of the Mountains as well. Well, Claudio Capucci, second this year, must wonder what he's got to do to win the Tour de France, because he's one of the great mountain climbers. That stage he won in Sestre was absolutely phenomenal, and the crowd beginning to work their way home. Just to give you some idea, this is the back end of the course, by the way, and there are those lovely boats that go up and down the river. On the far side, that's an old railway station, that where in fact they've now turned it into a museum. They've taken up the train lines, and it's full of works of art, mainly sculpture that's in there, but there are some beautiful paintings in there as well. And so if you're in Paris, that's another that you can visit. In the background too, you can see the Eiffel Tower, and there we have the confirmation then of the success today. Ludwig taking it, Van Poppel and Museo. We spotted all that lot. Little holes it was back in fifth, but Frankie Andrew, my mistake, I thought it might be Hampson. He's not a sprinter anyway, but so Andrew for Motorola into sixth spot. All the tales of the Tour de France now being related. The journalists are clamouring to get a few last words from the riders today at the finish line. In addition to the families around about here to go back tonight to meet up with their riders, many of them will be catching an early plane back home. Some will stay overnight for the festivities their sponsors have laid on. For some of them, though, they'll just want to go, I think, and find a dark corner to lie down and recover from what has been the hardest, toughest, and nearly the fastest Tour de France on record. It wasn't this year the record, because we just had a couple of quiet days today and yesterday which knocked the average speed back. But what a great average speed we had when Indurain did that phenomenal time trial. That was an absolute humding of a time trial, 32.5 miles an hour. He covered the 62.5 miles in. And here you can see the Danish rider on the right hand side, Søren Lilholt, congratulating Ludwig and saying well done, well done. He tried hard, did Søren Lilholt, but he wasn't to be his day. He's a good long drawn-out sprinter, Søren, but he's not got the explosive power of the man on the left-hand side who's won more stages in the peace race than anybody else. Record-breaking rider in the peace race is Ludwig when it comes to sprints. You see the motorcycles there all round to stop people swarming into the finishing area unless they've got the right pass, and it seems that everyone, his grandmother's got passes at the moment. It's filling up rather rapidly in front of our commentary point, but nevertheless the big crowd here have enjoyed an amazing finish. There was nothing boring about it, I don't think, at all. You can see the one or two still trying to work their way down towards the podium presentation, and that is a very welcome sight indeed for many of the spectators. I think they've been standing in the baking hot sunshine. They've been sending off friends to go and get drinks on the side. There'll be people selling, yes, Coca-Cola, thank goodness. Plenty of that on offer today, I can tell you. And there we are, the victor of the stage, Olav Ludwig, record number of piste race stages. Seoul, 1988 Olympic champion. Well, that championship will go this year. He's now a professional, and of course the Olympics going in full chat down in Barcelona. Spain having a wonderful festive time, but the whole of France is going to erupt with Spanish sounds when we finally get the yellow jersey up onto that rostrum for the victors. You can still see how he's breathing hard because that chase was extremely quick. They were certainly averaging around about 35 miles an hour on the chase down the other side of the Champs-Elysees, and then sprinting out again. It's the stop, go sprinting which really hurts, believe you me. That takes all the strength out of them. Give you some idea, by the way, when the cameras swing round, see all the police motorcycles, that phalanx of motorbikes on the front, they will go up the Champs-Elysees with the winning team and the yellow jersey eventually for a... Yakimov, by the way, he got a special award for the European community. You see the blue square with the stars of the nations of Europe together. Well, he won that particular award. We had the sprints every time we went across the border. There was a special sprint. Yakimov collected enough points to take the EC award this year. But whatever people might think about the EC, one's own personal feelings about Maastricht and the summit, and certainly it made this tour very different by visiting all those countries around the edge of France. Yakimov receiving the applause here, a fine champion, currently the world 20 kilometre points champion. But there's some talk of him not riding the World Championship this year because he hasn't been selected for the road team. He wanted to ride the road and they said no, the track, and he might not ride the track. We shall wait and see. He's got plenty of time to change his mind, I suspect, as the camera once more pulls back from that lovely gold dome in the background. They've recently re-gilt it, by the way, that one. So Zadanov, the best young junior rider. Well, they certainly have in the tour this year. The Soviet Union, ex-Soviet Union rider has been very strong indeed, and this has been an extremely good lad too. He's been very, very helpful to his team. He's been out there battling for stages as well, and we started something like 36 young riders, 25 years of age or under, and about half of them have finished the race. That's damn sight more than used to ride in the past anyway. Last year we only had about 11 riders under 25 who took part in the Tour de France. Well, there's an enormous roar here. You probably heard it on your speakers because they pulled up Claudio Chiappucci, everybody's favourite, this fellow, and I'm looking forward to the time when he goes across to England to, I hope he rides the Wincanton there, because he's going to go over Home Moss, by the way. They're going to do a laps round a big, tough course. It will suit this fellow, and I'm sure the British spectators will be out there on the Home Moss to cheer him all the way round and to see if he can get over the top of that one, as he has done. And let us not forget that great stage 13 into Sestra, where he did about 150 miles on his own, over the whole category climbs, which demolished the ambitions of many riders. He knocked out 14 men who decided to abandon the course on that day. He did it in the mould of Coppi and Bartali by winning on his own in Sestra, which was in Italy, in front of a massive Italian crowd of spectators. So he's ridden his heart out again. He couldn't get closer than 1:42 to Indurain and lost more time on the time trials, which is not his strong point. So you have to be a great all-rounder in the Tour de France to be able to climb the hills, be able to time trial to stay in contention. But nevertheless then, in second spot, Claudio Chiappucci will be back up on the rostrum yet again, but he was winner of the Coca-Cola Light competition for the best climber in the race. Well, now then, the French crowd are having their fair share of the applause, because Laurent Jalabert, the young rider from the Onsei team, who used to be the eternal second really, moved down out from the old Toshiba team when it scrambled itself last year to ride for this Onsei team, which is an institute for lottery for the blind, and he's given them enormous publicity. But let's not forget the lads in pink who defended his jersey. We saw them today riding their hearts out. We've seen them during the tour on some of the mountain stage when we've had finishes. They've had to try and keep this man away from Museo. Well, they've done it, and he's shown his ability as a climber. Normally the green jersey goes to a chunky sprinter like Abdul Japarov, or like this fellow here, who climbs reasonably well Museo, but he couldn't quite climb in this tour as well as Jalabert. When we saw the bold figure of Ludwig crossing the line, you see a big man. He's been a previous green jersey winner in the Tour de France, but it isn't always a man that's big that can sprint well. You now have to be able to climb well too, because that is one of the problems with the tour. We have now such big hills and hilltop finishes that you can't always expect that the big bulky men will take the green jersey. the Spanish crowd opposite our commentary point have gone absolutely bananas, or castanettas I should say, because they're singing and chanting and waving flags for Miguel Indurain for the second year in succession has got the yellow jersey. This is the first time it's ever happened for a Spaniard, because in the past we've had O'Connor win the Tour, we had Belmontes win the Tour, we had Miguel Indurain win it last year, but never before has a Spaniard won it 2 years on the trot. So the Banesto rider here has been so strong throughout the whole of the Tour, showing that the way in which his team manager has been looking after him and bringing him on. So congratulations to all his team and to Jose Miguel Echevarri, his team manager, bringing this man up to victory yet again. There is the final general classification. Well, I hope you've enjoyed Eurosport's coverage of the Tour de France. It's been phenomenal. Myself, David Duffield, on the Champs-Elysees with Miguel Indurain, the winner of 1992 Tour de France. Bye-bye.